chasing it. It's going straight into the confectionery stall and out again. Holding and facing.
That's it this time. He's made sure he's taken 5 wickets. He grabs the stump. Another memorable victory for England.
Welcome to England's greatest all-round cricketer, hard-hitting commentator, of course, charity game changer, county sports advocate, and peer of the realm. It's a great welcome to our special guest tonight, and I must say, you know, we've called this world's best cricket club appropriately. You are an appropriate guest. Beefy Botham, welcome. Great to have you on, Beefy. And what actually do we call you? What's the best way of referring to you now?
Well, Beefy's fine. Yeah, I don't see why I would change that after all these years. But no, no, Beefy's great. Even the grandchildren call me Grandad Beefy. So you're allowed to call me Beefy, Yozza.
Great. Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, great to have you on. And we're going to do some wine tasting. Well, welcome to everybody else who's joined tonight. I know we've got some extra guests tonight as well. So welcome to all of you. This is what we've called the world's best cricket club. We've had an amazing array of guests, of which Beefy is obviously the most prominent, but we've had some great people on. Joe Root, Stuart Broad. I nearly said Chris Broad. Stuart Broad, Mark Wood, Joss Butler, Alistair Cook. It was great fun. So we've had a lot of really interesting guests. And if you want to join our club, if you're people who've just come tonight on the Eventbrite platform, you can join our club. Please try and join us because we have a lot of fun and seems like all the punters do as well. Also, I should just mention, apart from the wine, which is nicely positioned there, in the back of shot there, you can just see that picture on the wall, which is that great iconic picture of our guest tonight, which he kindly signed last week. That is for auction. We'll do that later. But if you want to post a price that you're prepared to put into the charity, of course, we're doing this for the Cricketers Trust, the Professional Cricketers Trust. If you want to put an offer on that on the chat box, there is an offer of 250 already. So anybody who fancies going more than that, we'll keep that going during the evening. But that is an iconic picture. It's very large as well, and he signed it extremely firmly, so it's not going to fade over time. So it's well worth having that. Actually, I mean, just first question to you is just before we get into the wine and your sort of your interest there, your passion there. I mean, looking back at your life, you must be incredibly proud of what you've achieved.
Yeah, I've enjoyed everything. I've had a philosophy all my life as a sportsman, in the early days, then playing, and then even now in life. And that's you always look forward. There's no point in going backwards. Keep going forward, and that's why you've heard me use it. I'm sure yours are in the dressing room, but you ride the torpedo to the end of the tube. And the meaning of that is very simple. That once you're on, there's no point in worrying about what you've done. You've got to put it right and keep going forward and learn from that. So, yeah, pretty simple philosophy, and probably easier to keep it that way, to be honest.
Have you lived your every day like that? Has it been easy to live every day like that in your life? Or was there times when you thought, oh, this isn't working out so well? Or
the West Indian, when they had about 14 quick bowlers lining up, all about 10 foot tall and bowling at 100 miles an hour. That was interesting. That was an interesting period. I remember as captain, I used to walk around the dressing room at the end of the day's play and just have a look and see how many players I had left. How many had gone to A&E and how many were still there having a cold beer. So it was trying, but that was a great privilege, though, to play against that team. You're talking about, in my opinion, and I think a lot of professionals at that period of time and now, I think the West Indies in that period of 15, 20 years, when they were right at their peak, were the best side that's ever played the game. And I hear the critics, people saying, oh, well, they didn't have a spinner. Well, there's a very simple answer to that. When the hell was he going to bowl? You know, so, no, they were an amazing team to play against, quite ruthless, enormous ability, skilled all the way through. And I say one of the most formidable bowling attacks. And what made them so formidable was the fact that they operated not in ones and twos, but they hunted in a pack. And they had always had four. And from when Clive Lloyd made that decision after the tour of Australia, he said, we will have four quick bowlers in our team for every game from this point on. And he had an abundance of them there. The list goes on. Not so strong now in the bowling department as they were, but there again, everything goes in cycles. But they had about a magnificent 15 or 20 years.
England are about to embark on a test series against India, and magnificently impressive in Australia, and they have all that money, and the game seems to really opened up in India as well. You know, players coming from everywhere now in that vast cricket mad country. I wonder whether you think that India might be able to emulate a team like the West Indies in the 1980s in terms of dominance, and the Australians in the 1990s and into the 2000s.
Possibly, yeah. I think what was impressive about that Indian side was there was no Virat, apart from the first test, but Virat wasn't there playing. And everyone sort of, I know a lot of people in Australia, and I do a lot of work in Australia. I spend a lot of time in most normal years in that part of the world. And they actually thought it'd be a bit of a walk in the park, particularly after that first test. And far from it. The young side excelled. And I think sometimes when you put a younger pack, they come in with no baggage. And the Australians like to remind you of everything you've done badly in the past. Well, that side hadn't done anything badly because they'd only just started playing. And I think they went in and the gloves were off and they were given freedom and they excelled. And I think it was great to watch. For me, Test cricket is the game, number one. It's what it's all about. And when I watch a young side like that play and go out there and play and perform as they did, who knows where they could end up. But you look at the whole of the top sides now, with the exception of probably at this moment in time, Pakistan is still rebuilding. I think New Zealand are playing well. Kane Williamson leads from the front. Terrific team there they've got. And they're all workaholics. You know, they all work and play and they're excited about playing. And that's why they do so well. England, I think, are going to have a problem soon. You're going to lose both, well, Jimmy and Stewart. And I think when those two go, with there's 800 wickets or something, 900 wickets, whatever it is there. It's an amazing record, an amazing partnership. And you're not going to be able to fill those boots very quickly. It's going to take time. And there's young players to come through. So I think England will have a bit of a problem in that area when those two go, but hopefully there's a young crop coming through. Australia you can never write off. The convicts don't know when to lie down, and they'll keep coming and they'll keep coming at you. And they're probably the most formidable team, or a bunch of people I ever played against, and that's why I admire the Australians so much. There's more people inside the M25 than there is the whole of Australia, and yet they produce Rugby World Cup, League, Union. Hockey, men's, women's, cricket, men's, women, you name it, it just goes on the list of their achievements and World Cup victories. And that tells you a lot about the people and the country. And that's why I enjoy mixing with them. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cricket out there at the moment. I think Test cricket is the benchmark. And I think that in the immediate future, yeah, India will do well. And India will be hard to beat in their own backyard. They always are. But I hope they don't try and prepare dust bowls. That backfired last time. I think they'll try and play to their strength, and I think the strength now is they've got good seamers and they've got good batsmen that like to play shots. Very difficult in dust bowls. Yeah,
I mean, actually, it's they've got a pretty good all-round side, haven't they? Because Pujara takes the blows like Brian Close, who obviously had a big influence on you early on, and then they've got some dogged players, but also the flamboyant players. Just keeping on India just for a sec. I mean, one of the wines we're going to taste tonight, this is your 80 Cabernet Sauvignon, And you, in 1980, the reason why you've named it that was because in 1980, you had that remarkable game in Mumbai where you took 13 wickets and scored 114. And I've looked up the stats today of that game, the scorecard. You bowled 48 overs, as well as scoring 114. How the hell did you manage to do that?
Well, I think if you're taking wickets, it helps, keeps you going. But to be honest with you, it was on the back end of a trip to Australia where it had been tough and hard. And I went there and I had a good time and enjoyed it. And I'll be quite honest with you, I think I bowled all but one over or maybe two from one end the whole game.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sort of when you get on a roll, I suppose. I mean, Jimmy Anderson is a good example of that as well. That, you know, when you get on a roll, I suppose you don't feel tired, do you? Especially as you're taking wickets, I guess. But still, I mean, to be able to do that, the stamina to be able to do that, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think, Jimmy, when you get into a rhythm and you actually don't take that much out of you. I was very fit, very strong in those days. I could keep going, and I enjoyed bowling longer spells. I hated short spells because I think long spells give you a time to work on the batsman. You know, you go in there, you've got some ideas preconceived. I've played against this guy. How do I get him out before? So that's going through your mind. I had to be an all-rounder, Yoza, because my boredom threshold is about that much. And if I wasn't an all-rounder, yeah, exactly. Well, hang on, we'll move on to you as well in a minute. But
thought that might be coming.
Yeah, don't waste time, and I won't let you down. No, I had to be involved and wanted to be involved. Second slip, bowling, batting. So it was. Once I had the ball in my hand and the wickets were going down, there was no way they were getting it back. So.
Actually, the other point about that match and that performance is it shows you took 13 wickets in the game. It shows that actually India isn't just this sort of spin-dominated place. And that actually seamers can take wickets. In fact, in the '84 series as well, when England won, Neil Foster took wickets there. In the 2012 series, which England won under Cook, you know, Finn, Anderson had a role. So in actual fact, it's good swing bowling can be valuable, right? In India.
Yeah. And its use of the new ball is so important in that part of the world. You cannot waste it. And Jimmy Anderson doesn't waste the new ball. You know, he makes you play. He's probing all the time. He's got great control. I've saw Jimmy from start to today, and I've watched him. And I remember when they tried to mess around with his action very early on in his England career. And thankfully, he saw the light and told the coaches where to go. And Jimmy does it Jimmy's way. And I have to say, he does it very well. Extremely well.
Did you have many people, you know, trying to tinker with you like that?
No.
Probably just as well. Did anybody try?
No,
you had Tom
really.
I think Tom Cartwright sort of influenced you initially, didn't he?
Yeah, but Tom never wanted me to change anything any more than Brian Close, who was a magnificent captain to play under.
I mean, your natural skill. I was always interested, actually, in your natural ability, and people perhaps don't realise this, but even when you were slowed down playing for Durham, and I hope you noticed that the Durham shirt still fits me actually as well. Anyway, I noticed even when your pace had slowed down, you still had an ability with your wrist action to make the ball do something. Was that something you were just born with?
No, what I was born with was a dodgy back, and it was diagnosed in the very early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And I was very lucky. I got a good 10 years after that before it went. Everyone's vertebrae are interlock, and I actually had one that was there. And at some stage, they told me it'll shift, and then it'll be a real problem. And it did, but not until I was playing at Worcester. When I first went to Worcester is when it flared up completely. Big back operation, fusions, natural bone put into the spine. And that did me proud. It did all the walks, and I played. They said I'd never play international cricket again. I played. Yeah, look, you know, at the end of the day, it can be, you know, you can, the psyche as well of it. You know, you sort of how you get into players' minds. and remind them of when I got them out 10 years ago, being a totally different bowler, or 5 years ago. You make the most of what you've got. And I actually enjoyed that. And I used to actually say I'm going through my Tom Cartwright era now, at the same pace. And I used to, when I told Tom that, he wasn't very happy. But no, you know, I had great support. Peter Robinson, Tom Cartwright.
But it was the skill, but your skill was, you know, I've never seen anybody else. I mean, maybe someone like Vernon Philander would be the only other player that I've seen that seems to be able, just with subtle hand positions, wrist, whatever it is, fingers, can make the ball, can coax the ball to do things, whether it's move a tiny bit, bounce a little bit more, you know, just swing a touch. I mean, you just had that naturally.
Yeah, but it's all about wrist.
Yeah.
It's sort of your wrist position. And the movements are so subtle that no batsman's going to know what's coming. And sometimes, you know, it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's days when the ball doesn't do very much. You just got to then adapt, and then you play a patience game, and you maybe bowl at a fifth stump, so to speak, a couple of stumps outside the off stump. Bowls are there with not a defensive, but an offside field, and a couple of catches. And then, you know, you have to improvise according to the wickets. But if there was any swing or any seam, then I back myself all the way.
And I'll just say one other thing before we move on, and that is that I grew up, you know, it's a great privilege to have you on tonight, actually, because I grew up watching you bowl as a sort of 17-year-old, and you were playing your first test. And I saw you bowl in that period, the sort of late 70s. I saw you bowl, you know, your in-swingers and your out-swingers, which I tried to copy. But particularly, I liked the slower ball that you bowled occasionally, which was a sort of an off-break, I think. And I tried to copy that. And one of the highlights of my career, I'll tell you, is probably the highlight, was I actually got you out with my slower ball, which I learned off you. And at Lord's, you remember it maybe. And I got you out, and you kind of got halfway through the shot and lobbed it up to cover. And the lovely part about it was I was absolutely over the moon. You were a bit grumpy that you'd been done by your own taste of your own medicine, if you like. And you stormed off, and Embers, John Embry, who normally fielded at slip, had an injured finger, and he was fielding down at the long leg boundary by the gate. And as you walked past him, looking a little bit cross, you just said, "That's how to bowl an off break," and stormed up the steps. And that is one of the highlights of my life, anyway. That.
Yeah, look, I remember it very, very well. And the fact, you know, how could I forget one of your very few wickets against Somerset in those days? But, you know, I remembered it. But no, I did. Embers, past Embers, and, you know, his international teammate, we played cricket together. I wasn't grumpy at all, actually. I was actually embarrassed, not grumpy.
Thanks. Yeah, right. I suppose so, yeah. I suppose I asked for that, really.
I did say to Embers, I said, "That's how you bowl off spin." And in fairness to Embers, he cracked up as well. No, that's banter, that's humour. That's what it's all about. You don't go out there to have a good time and try and play as well as you can. If you get yourself out or you got out, well, accept it. You know, the bowler's allowed to win once in a while.
Simon.
We're going to move on to some wine tasting. One thing, how did you? I remember watching you bowl in a Benson Hedges Cup match in 1976 in Bristol, and you were probably bowling medium pace, but a couple of years later, you were bowling quickly, fast. I mean, Vic mentions this as well. You know, you said you started off as a sort of medium fast bowler, and you became a quick bowler who swung it. How did that happen over just the course of a couple of years? It was just your body getting stronger, or what was it?
I think it's a combination of things. I think belief in yourself, confidence, also not really realizing what I had until I pushed it. Because when I was on the Lord's ground staff before I joined Somerset full time, they regarded me as a batsman who could bowl a little bit, and I never bowled in any of the games. So I probably took me a little while to get myself sorted out from that point. But no, when Alan Border, I had some great battles with AB, and in that that period of about 8 years, he said, he bowled as quickly as anyone to us, against us. But then I was making the most, if you like. I knew what was coming with the back. That someday it was going to give in, and it did. But I was very, very lucky. I got 10 solid years before that happened, and that's when I came back, Yoza, and that's when I had to bowl within it, because I couldn't physically, because that much of the base of my spine is solid. And it stood me proud, because I had to, well, I said, like, welded me back. But then only, 2.5 years ago, it slipped something like 1,000th of a millimetre or something stupid. And I had to have an operation again to rebuild it, and that little shift. So I was very, very lucky from that point of view. But you pay the price. It's like a sport. I had to have 2 hips done as well. So I had a couple of years on crutches, which wasn't a lot of fun. But you sit back there and you're on crutches and you're thinking, wow, everyone going, oh, I'm so sorry for this. And I'm thinking, no, I'm actually quite pleased, because I'd have been sorry if it had happened when I was 24, 25. Then I would have been pretty pissed off, to be honest. I'd be devastated. But no, I got into my 30s before it hit me. So I was very lucky.
Well, let's look back at your one or two of your iconic moments, and we'll taste the wine in between test matches.
I'm tasting it.
So you've got your, actually, well, as you've got your white there, do you want to just tell us about that first?
What, the one that you forgot to tell everyone out there about?
Yeah, the one I forgot to tell everyone about. Yeah.
Well, actually, we do a few whites, a couple of whites. Thank you very much, Simon. Yes, they call it the 76 series.
I'm opening mine now.
Yeah, it's a Chardonnay. It's in my series range, which is the middle range, which we're drinking all of this evening. And that comes from Margaret River. It's actually produced at a vineyard called Howard's Park in the Margaret River. And that's
in Western Australia, isn't it, for those who don't know?
Yeah.
South of Perth.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic region, beautiful region. Fantastic vineyards down there, some very famous ones, Lewin Estate, Mosswood, to name but two. But the wines down there are fantastic. But what we did with the Chardonnay in the 76 is we used 2 different areas. One was coastal and one was slightly more inland. Now, if you've been to the Margaret River, it's not a wide peninsula. But there was one area where the temperature change was about 4 degrees from being on the coast and inland. And we mixed, and I blended the two because you got the freshness from the coastal Chardonnay, and you got a bit more body from the inland because it had a little bit more heat. So that was fun, and we still I go over there every year. Hopefully I'll get over there this year. And all I do really, to be honest with you, is we just check it and say that it's as it was and the blend's still right. And it's great fun. I catch up with the guys who, when we all started doing it, or Janice over there, who's the head winemaker at Howard Park. And it's a small world, the wine market. As we go on to the reds shortly, we'll do them in an order for everyone that's watching. If they've got the reds, we'll do the Malbec first, followed by the Shiraz, and we'll finish off with the Cabernet.
Yeah, and just quickly, this one then, you would have you picked Margaret River, did you, as a place, an area you liked?
No, I've always been a magnificent area to go down. One of my great mates, cricketing players I played a lot against, was Dennis Lilly, and DK is a Perth man, and he very favours a vineyard called Mosswood, which is exceptional. But so I got to know a few of the wines from that region through Dennis over the years, and consequently, it's a natural attraction. I love the wines from that area. So,
okay, well, that's the 76 Chardonnay from Margaret River. For those of you who failed to get it because I didn't tell you in time, and I apologise for that. But we'll be tasting an 81 series Shiraz in a minute, and let's just recap just briefly some of the moments from that amazing 81 series, starting with one that you won't remember very fondly. I expect you remember this, Lord's Cricket Ground, and you're walking back after the second innings. What's going on through your head there?
Not a lot. Look at those lovely members there. And all I was trying to do was get some quick runs to declare. It's the only pair of my career. And it was done at Lord's, but I vowed for many years not to acknowledge the members ever again. And I didn't for a very, very long time.
You've relented now, have you?
Look, it's not a case of relented. I think that we've worked in partnership on a few projects, and to be quite frankly, most of the people in that shot probably not there anyway now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 40 years ago. All right. Well, let's go to happier times. And this is the next test match, obviously. You've just taken guard in the second innings when England were 70 behind or something, was it? When you took guard 7 down, roughly that?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway. But let's just enjoy a couple of shots from that innings, 149 not out. Just a couple of little highlights, some authentic shots to start with. Dennis Lillee with his headband. That's a real kind of, aesthetically pleasing shot. Square cut, or a back cut really. It's basically a slog. But that shot, I think that shot is probably your best shot. And I'm going to slow this one down again. Is this your best shot, do you think, of the best shot that you play?
Well, he changed the field a little bit, so I gave myself stayed on leg stump.
Yeah.
And,
play it again.
Stayed there and gave myself that little bit of width and room. And I knew what he was trying to do, but it was my day, and that came out in the middle of the bat.
But I mean, that shot that you play, that you played in many instances, to me was your sort of signature shot, because it wasn't a bad ball. It wasn't particularly wide. It wasn't particularly short. But you had this amazing eye and ability where you can see you there, you're slightly on your toes. So you've ridden up slightly with the bounce. But the bat swing, the bat swing itself, the eye to be able to pick up that line and length so quickly. Look at that backlift. That's Brian Lara-esque. And then to hit through the line and time it so fantastically as well. That must be a really enjoyable shot to be able to play.
Yeah, look, it came naturally to me. I wasn't, as you know, I hated nets. I didn't practice a great deal. I just loved playing, and I wanted to play out in the middle as much as I could. It was just a natural shot for me. As Viv Richards would probably hit that through mid-wicket for 4. For me, it was natural to go the other way.
There you.
Like
that was a 100 partnership between Dilly and you, and this one. And what was being said here when you got to your 100?
Well, Breers was actually telling me to tell, by that stage, I think, was it Chris Oldin by that stage? I think he was.
Yeah.
And he was telling me to tell Chris to stay in there, hang in there and play with him. And I just walked up to Chile and said, mate, just keep playing. He was playing well. And don't worry about all that lot up there. They've had their go. He was fine. He was good. And Graham Diddy played the innings of his life. I thought I was batting with Graham Pollock down the other end. And Chris Old hung around, and he wasn't renowned for doing that. He tended to be, go in there and have a go and what have you. But he actually hung around for a while. I couldn't do it. You had to have someone at the other end. Graham Diddy got a magnificent 50. And that took the pressure off from my point of view. So at least someone else was scoring freely at the other end, and then Chris Old continued that. But
was there anything said to you on the field during that innings by the Aussies?
No, not really. I don't think so. Nothing that worried me. No, actually, in fairness, the Aussies didn't really say much to me. They used to leave me alone. They think, don't wake him up. You might have had a big night last night, so don't wake him up. Leave him alone. He might get out. But the only one that I had run-ins with was Ian Chappell, and I still have run-ins with him now.
We know all about that.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's put it this way, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. It seems to upset him a bit more, but there again, he's the one that got clobbered. So.
We can't leave Headingley without seeing a little bit of your old mate, dear old Bob, and his bowling. So let's just enjoy a couple of, 4 or 5 of his wickets quickly. Extraordinary bowling, really. And good catching, actually. Noticeable here, there's a lot of really good catches as well.
Yeah, well, I think we were all convinced that that was Bobby Taylor down the leg side court. And
This was a
one,
good catch.
well, Gat thought it was a pork pie. He came steaming in. It was very good. I can tell you a little bit about Bob as well in that test, which wasn't particularly common knowledge. And that was the final wicket. And he got 15.1 overs, 8 for 43.
8 for 45, yeah, 43, yeah.
Yeah, 43 went. And but Bobby, he wasn't going to play in that game. And they rang him up and he said, no. He said, I'm not playing for Warwickshire to be right for the test match at Headingley. And then Mike Brearley rang him up and he said, no, I'm fine. He'd been having a problem with no balls, a big problem. And he bowled a few in the first innings, I think, or maybe he didn't actually. But in the second innings, when he came down the hill, he could continue pace and aggression. It was a magnificent spell. And to bowl that many overs off the reel, because he only had 2 or 3 at one end, and then he came round at the top and then bowled unchanged. And the rest, as I say, is history. Some great catching. Gat took a couple. He got the one at mid-on off Dennis Lilly. Kim Hughes was caught by some old codger.
Graham Dilly took one on the boundary at fine leg, didn't he? Which was a good catch, actually.
Yeah, Rod Marsh. Got another one at short leg. No, there was Bobby Taylor was excellent as always. So yeah, but you have to back your bowlers and support them. And that day, it just all came together in that game.
At what point did you think realistically you could win the game? At what point did it suddenly strike you? We could produce something incredible here.
Well, to be honest with you, the wicket wasn't very good. Okay, so it was pretty uneven. It got worse as it went on, and you'll see a few of those. The balls got a bit bigger than people were expecting, and the odd one keeping a bit low. But I honestly felt that once we got 130 odd ahead, we had a real chance. And then we went in at 50 for 1. Australia were 50 to 1 at the lunch break, I think. And then everything happened very quickly. Got 1, got 2, got 3, and it was that kind of wicket because it was very difficult for players to come in, and they were probably looking to be slightly more defensive than perhaps they would normally be, because they felt we'll just occupy the crease and we'll get the runs. But that kind of wicket's always given the bowler a chance. But you've got to catch it and make the most of the nicks, and Bob also uprooted a few stumps.
What was Bob Willis on that day? I mean, he looked like he was on drugs.
No, Bobby, no. Bobby's drug is Bob Dylan. No, he was just possessed. I think but he'd also received a lot of criticism from the media in the lead up to that game. And he was quite cynical during the Man of the Match award. And poor old Peter West, who never did anyone any harm, asked Bobby a question, and he just got simple answers: yes, no, yes, no. And I think he was just so hyped up. And once he got on the roll, there was no way anyone was going to stop him. And I think that probably the British media at that time and the Australian media did us a massive favour, because they got ripped into him before the game. And should he be playing, and shouldn't he be playing, etc., etc. And he answered them the way that Bobby did best. Bowled quick and took wickets.
Right, let's get on to another wine. So what's next? Is the Malbec, is it next? Did you say?
We'll have the Malbec.
Right, we'll have the Malbec. Okay. So this is a 79 series Malbec from Argentina.
Yeah, well, the best Malbecs are grown in Argentina. Mendoza is the region, and the Uco Valley, where this comes from, is up in the Andes. And the Uco Valley wine is Malbec's the signature wine of Argentina. I think it's great. There's a combination of all sorts to get your nose round and your palate. I find the colour is fantastic.
It is, yeah. It's very Ribenery, yeah.
Well,
better than that, but you know.
Yeah, Ribena is not the way I would describe my wine.
All right. Fine.
No, but you get.
Well, it's
you
black
get
currant, isn't it? I mean, you know, it's a sort of black currant colour. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
ribena. Doesn't taste like ribena.
I'll tell you what, Yossa, I'll do the wines. You
Yeah,
ask
go on then. Get on with it then. Go on, yeah.
Can I just explain to everyone at home that I actually finished, when I finished my career at Durham, I played the last year with Yossa. And this is an absolutely true story. So this just shows you what I'm dealing with and why you didn't get told about the white wine. So I'm bowling and the ball gets played down the fine leg where Yossa is. And watching, he hasn't moved. And we scream, Yossa, Yossa. He'd fallen asleep on the bloody boundary. He was asleep, stood there asleep. And I thought, well, this is time to retire. And I retired just after that, literally. But so there's no surprise.
It's a true story, but the thing is, I was so bored watching you bowl with the keeper stood up and, you know, people just blocking it. It was just boring. I wanted to be somewhere else.
In fact, I've just had a message from the keeper, Andy Fothergill's just come up there. He's obviously
Fothers.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what he said, Yossa, but I think you're on the losing side. You get all sorts. You get all sorts.
Well, that's the worst thing. Yeah, it's the worst thing is when you wake up and realise the ball's just rolled past you at fine leg, and the bowler was IT Botham. That's not a good feeling.
I have slept in lots of places, but never on the cricket field while the game's going.
Good quote. Good line. Right, you got your dig in. Well done. Go on, tell us a bit more about this then. So, is it? I'm not trying to deflect the attention from me, but you know, it's about you. So this smells. I mean, what's the flavours we're getting here?
Well, I get a little bit of cherry.
Yeah.
Cherry. I get a little bit of sort of soft caramel in there. It's a very, very quaffable wine. It grows on you. It's not overly heavy, which is why it's the first of the reds we're drinking tonight.
And what drew you to Malbec and Argentina then?
Well, Argentina, really, it's the other way around, because Argentina you go to Argentina and it is Malbec, and that is the wine of Argentina. And they have some magnificent Malbecs that you never see in this country. And now you're just starting to see a few now, because they used to keep something like 80% of the wine they grew in Argentina never left Argentina. They were one of the biggest red wine consumers worldwide per head of population. No, it's a lovely wine. I'm actually looking forward to getting over there because I haven't done that area. And apart from the wines and the meat, of course, is legendary over there. And being a cannibal,
I've taken Simon to an Argentine meat restaurant in Guyana. You enjoyed that, Simon, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a great night out. I haven't eaten meat for 35 years. Yeah. I think your comment, Yoz, was, can't you eat meat for the evening? Anyway, let's move on. I tell you what, the drinks were good, though. The drinks were good.
Drinks were good, yeah. They were caipirinha, Brazilian, that was.
Yeah, very good,
yeah. Brazilian and Argentine steakhouse in Guyana. Which Simon didn't really enjoy that much. Anyway, as a vegetarian. Right, so let's move on to the third test in Edgbaston. And just before we go to it, I just want to say again, there's this picture. Now, this picture was actually taken in what dressing room?
That's Headingley.
That is Headingley. I thought it was, but I was just checking. So you got a cigar. You got the cigar on there.
That's 81 Headingley.
Yeah.
And it really invited the wives up into the dressing room.
Right.
It never happened before, and they just wandering in, as you can see, and I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, what's she doing here? But but no, it was great actually, and that's what Breers was brilliant at, getting the best out of his players. And we'd had a hard test up to that point, and he thought, well, we should all celebrate it.
Well, that's great. So there's a nice little story there attached to the picture. Let's get your bids in. So I haven't noticed whether anyone's actually bid yet, sorry, but 250 was the ceiling. If you can all check on the chat box, which is too small for me to read right now, but maybe noughts, you can have a quick look, see if how that's going. So one thing that Brearley said to you, Beefy, I think during that series, and you talk about how he motivates players, he called you the sidestep queen. Is that true? And is that what motivated you to produce the spell in this next test match?
No, it was the first I've ever heard of that.
Oh, okay. The side, I thought he's in his book. He actually says that he called you when in one game when you were running into bowl and just jumping in from a wide position. You were sort of jumping into the crease and letting go of it and not really bowling with your full throttle for some reason. And so he says he called you sidestep queen, and you kind of came tearing in and took loads of wickets. No, you don't remember that. All right. I'll have to check with him on that one then. So what motivated you then to produce this spell here then? This is Edgbaston, obviously.
That's what I'm saying.
This is Edgbaston, yeah.
Yeah, it's Edgbaston.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what happened. There was no side foot, whatever. What it was, we just got a wicket prior to this. Border
prior to this ball to Rod Marsh.
No, the border was out just before this spell started.
Right.
And got out. And Breer said, do you want to bowl? And I said, yeah, now I do. And we moved it out. And that's what happened.
Of what outweighs that, the lows, or
getting some interference here.
Environment in terms of competition.
That's a radio station.
Nothing to do with me.
Can you, Diamond? Can you just come off screen a minute? The film.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, we're having some larks. Some people try and have some larks with us, but
okay.
But it's all right.
Okay. Well, anyway, Beefy, tell us about Edgbaston. Sorry. So Embers got border out, didn't he? I think caught short leg.
Yeah. And prior to that, Breers has said to me, do you want to have a bowl? I said, look, let's see if we can, it's just turning and bouncing a little bit. Let's just give it another over or two a spin. And lo and behold, a few balls later, Embers gets border out, caught very well by Gat at short leg. And then he looked at me and I looked at him and said, yeah. And I came on and the ball reversed. And in those days, we didn't really understand the science of reverse swing. And the ball actually, just by chance, I realized it was going the opposite way to where I was trying to swing it. So if I was trying to swing it out, it was going in and dipping in, as you saw with that delivery there. And it was by chance, and I loved it. It was classic old balls reverse swing.
Right.
It was the first time I really realised how it worked, and it was useful. It became very useful, obviously, from that point on. But yeah, that spell was the first time I'd really used reverse swing. Really
interesting.
It was by pure chance that I discovered it. I just ran in and I was trying to bowl an outswinger, and with the older ball, we'd worked on the ball. It was very dry, as you could see from the pictures there. It was sunny, warm, and hot and dry, and everything was in your favour. And once we realised what was happening, we just looked after the ball. I just said to the guys, yeah, don't put anything on that dry side. Leave it alone. And the ball just went very late. And that was the first time that I'd actually understood it as a bowler. I'd seen it before when I was batting, but I didn't actually understand the mechanics of it. And by chance, it all sort of clicked.
Did you ever talk to Dennis Lilly about that? Because Imran Khan told me that, and I know that one might slightly doubt some of the veracity of some of the things Imran Khan says, but he told me that Dennis Lilly taught him about reverse swing, and Dennis Lilly was bowling in Melbourne in about the early 70s, and was bowled a lot of balls on a dry pitch in Melbourne, I think, which swung late in and got lots of LBWs. And Imran, I think it was against Pakistan, and he asked Dennis how he'd done it, and he said it was reverse swing, and that's how Imran learned it. And we didn't really call it that in those days, did we? We didn't really know what it was. It was just, I suppose, bowlers like you who sort of experimented were able to find, ways of making the ball move, which we didn't necessarily know what they were called. You're on mute, I think, now. You've gone on mute, Beefy. So someone's sabotaging us.
No, there's something's going on.
Yeah, you're right. You're back.
Yeah. So no, the ball. We used to say it's going Irish. You're not allowed to say that now. You get in trouble. I said that when I was commentating Sky, and next thing I got in the ear. Don't say that again. Well, I don't quite know why, because it was not meant to be an offence. It was just a fact that we thought it was going one way and it went the other. And the other thing I'll point out is there's no way, if Dennis Lilly had mastered the ball to reverse, that he would tell anyone playing for the opposition. Not a cat and hell's chance. And no, so the first person I saw exploited before Imran, and I remember watching, was Safraz.
Yeah, Northants.
He got 7-0 in Melbourne. And the ball, it was all reverse swing. And so that was the first time. And I'm sure that Imran would have got his education on it from Safraz. But there's no way in the world Dennis Lilly would tell the opposition bowler how to make the ball reverse.
I mean, maybe Imran just sort of, sort of guessed or something. But yeah, anyway, it was Dennis Lilly who clearly found a system. Simon, did you want to come in there? Sorry.
And well, no, just on the you're talking about the auction. We've got at the moment 360 House of Hot Yoga. That's where we are. Anyway, you asked about how the bids were coming in. They're creeping up anyway.
Okay, great. All right, brilliant. So you're 2-1 up now, having won in Edgbaston. Shall we do another wine now? Shall we go on to the what we do? Shiraz?
I'll happily do wines all night.
Yeah, good. Okay.
So
this feels like a night out with you, actually. Look, this is like one of the nights out with Beefy. Yeah.
Well, you used to nick off to bed about 9 o'clock.
And then you'd ring me up at 3 a.m. and say, "Get round here and have another drink." Anyway.
So we'll go on the Shiraz. Now, there's 2 areas of Australia. I won't be too long, but Shiraz is very much from the Barossa Valley. And then when we go on to the Cabernet last, that's very much Coonawarra. And
where's Coonawarra?
It's about 4 hours north of Adelaide. If you drive it, it's quite a wonderful drive, very, very picturesque. And then you've got the Barossa, which is more towards, if you're going towards Melbourne, out of Adelaide on the road. But the vineyard, the earth is different, the temperatures are different. Coonawarra can be more intense, but the real heat is in the Barossa. And the one thing about the Shiraz grape, it thrives on heat and being stressed, and it goes almost like a prune. And that's why you get the concentration that you get with the Shiraz wine. I'm a big fan of Shiraz. This was Bobby's favourite wine.
Was it? Because you used to have a wine label with Bob and Jeff Merrill, didn't you?
We still have.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We do that. It's a bit of fun, and it was started off as a bit of fun.
That's known as BMW for those who don't know, isn't it? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
BMW wine. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a great deal of it around now, but the Shiraz comes from the same area as that did, right. And I say it's the heat of the Barossa. It gives you the intensive taste and very much colour, and it's quite distinctive on the nose, Shiraz, and I think it's a lovely wine. Bobby's favourite. I'm always sort of more inclined towards Cabernet, which we'll move on to.
Is it pure Shiraz, or is there a blend in there with anything? Pure Shiraz, right?
That's a Shiraz.
And the Aussies make it so much easier than the French, don't they? By actually putting the name of the wine on the bottle rather than Chateau du whatever, and you've got to try and figure it out. At least
Bordeaux, Burgundy, yeah. But the beauty of the Australian wines, for me, is that a lot of them are as good, but they work out a lot cheaper than anything of the equivalent in France, and that's one of the reasons I was very much dragged towards New World wines.
Ali Gravison says, "Where can we buy this wine? This is pure torture. We want to drink this."
Well, hasn't he got any?
Obviously not, no.
Well, Yoza, have a word with Yoza. But you can get this.
Well, I found it in Waitrose today. Waitrose in Chiswick, that is. But as for there's lots of Madeline, your wine depot manager, says Waitrose or Tesco's as well, apparently.
Yeah, Tesco's. And also you can go online. If you just go online, it's the way the world is now. We all go online and it's delivered to your doorstep the next day. And each of the wines is described. And and there's also some very good deals online at the moment if you want to explore the range. As I say,
So it's bothamwines.com, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, Botham. Just put up Botham wine and it'll come up.
Just put Beefy and they'll send you wine straight away.
Yeah.
By the way, the bidding on the picture,
Yeah.
all proceeds go to the Professional Cricketers Trust. At the moment, stands at £500.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you for whoever.
Will Gould has bid £500.
Will,
There's some
brilliant.
quite intense bidding going on.
Cool.
Katie Clee was involved, House of Hot Yoga as well. But at the moment, it's with Will Gould at £500.
Amazing.
Oh no, House of Hot Yoga is to 501, as we say that. So
you're enjoying that bit of commentary, Simon, aren't you? You're getting warmed up for tomorrow. Simon's on air tomorrow at 6:30 and not on the BBC Social. So there we go. Right, let's just finish off the 81 Ashes with a little bit of the Old Trafford test. So there's you rushing off with the stump at Edgbaston. I love that picture. Have you still got that stump?
Do you know what? I probably haven't. I gave a lot of them away. I was never a big collector of memorabilia. I just felt, I don't know, I just used to give it away. I used to give it to people who would be auctioning something. The bat that I used in that series, that got sold, auctioned off. No, I was never really been one to fill the room with memorabilia. Not really my way, my scene.
Okay.
Well,
you must have got some incredible wine in your cellar. What's your best bottle of wine that you've got?
Well, I've got one bottle in there that goes back to the 1700s.
Oh my God.
But fortified wine. But yeah, I've got quite a few bottles of the year of my birth, 55, which was a pretty good year.
Of course it was.
Yeah, but for a number of reasons, nothing to do with that. But my wife will tell you it's because she was born in that year as well. That's why it was so good.
Quite
She's
right.
probably got a point.
She has.
No, I have a lot of wine in the cellar, and I'm actually at the moment redoing it all. So moving a lot of stuff now that I didn't want and auctioning it off and what have you, and then putting in some new stuff. That's the fun of wine. But making it is great, and making it so that people, I'd like to think that I wouldn't put a wine on the table unless I would drink it myself.
Okay.
And so that's whenever I'm making wine and blending it, and I've had some very, very good people to lead me and teach me about that over the years. Jeff Merrill, as you mentioned just now, probably being the leading man in that area. But at the end of the day, I'm 65 and I've been practicing on wine for probably the best part of nearly 50 years. So I get it right. John Arlott was the man that introduced me to it in the very early days when I was about 16 years of age, 17.
Right, well, I mean, he's amazing man. Yeah, amazing. Let's just recap the last test. So it's 2-1 now, Edgbaston, and just have a couple of little clips from Old Trafford, which I suppose in a way you might consider. Would you consider this your best test innings?
One of them. That wasn't a bad shot.
I mean, that is an amazing shot. I'm just going to play that again, actually, because I particularly like the sound it made off the bat. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'm going to turn it up.
You mentioned it earlier, Yoz, that this is pretty much
that click. Yeah, go on.
Similar line to the ball that you were showing earlier when I hit Lily through the offside of Leeds.
Okay, let's have a look.
Yeah, it was pure length, this, and I was seeing it like a football that went, and then the hook shots off DK Lilly. I mean, that went into the railway yard.
Blimey. There's a bit of Blondie as well being accompanying this, which is rather appropriate.
Very much so. Very bright.
6.
I
102.
I went to the 100 with that. I thought I was getting out on the boundary, but no, it was a much better innings to the one at Headingley technically. But no, the best one I played probably was the one in 80. Was it 6 when we went to Australia? The first test
in Brisbane.
Brisbane, I think, was under the circumstances was probably we'd lost quick wickets, and I got Phil De Freitas on debut at the other end, and he got I don't know, 50, somewhere around that. I'm sure Simon Mann, that is, will remember the score he got. But he got runs, and it was his first test, and he had the misfortune of rooming with me. So he used to have a senior player with a junior player, and Daffy reckons it was the best experience of his life. So I'll take that as a compliment.
Manny actually makes the point about that innings at Old Trafford. No headgear at all. I mean, it just seemed really weird now watching that back. Not a helmet, not even a cap.
No, I didn't. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't really. The only time I wore a helmet was later on in my career when I had to, because I got smashed just under the eye here and damaged the optic nerve, but not temporary, not permanently. Thank goodness. And they wouldn't let me play without a helmet and a visor after that. The doctors, and I never, to be honest with you, I never really liked it. I found it claustrophobic. I didn't enjoy it at all. It's like batting, in the sauna, the sweat box in your head, particularly in, the hotter countries. So yeah, I was very happy without it. I got hit a few times, but more glancing blows than full on. So yeah, but that I was brought up that way, and I had my best mate is at the other end quite often. That's a guy called Viv Richards. And we shared a house for 10 years. We grew up together, and helmets just weren't in the equation.
He never wore one, did he? He never ever wore a helmet.
No. But I was very much like him. I wouldn't have done unless I had to. I had no choice. They wouldn't let me play without it.
Yoz, is it time to take some questions from our audience this evening?
It definitely is. It definitely is. What I just wanted one more question, a general question, actually. I mean, what struck me always about, I was lucky to play with you for a year or two for Durham. And what always struck me about you was this incredible self-belief. You thought anything was possible. You thought whether it was an argument or a match, you thought you could win it or your team could win it. And it was an inspiring presence that you had, that you always had this conviction, this certainty that we could get out of this situation. Where did that come from? Did you always have it? Did you learn it? Did you get it from your parents? Where did you get that amazing, this sort of almost steel-like, impermeable self-belief?
Look, my mother and father were very good sports people. My mother played a lot of badminton, which I loved playing throughout my early days. My father was in the Royal Navy, and he played football, hockey, and I think the 400 meters he did for the naval pick of the Navy. He was a very good footballer. In fact, to the extent, this is a little anecdote for you, that my father was actually, and I'll keep it short, my father was actually playing for the Navy, and got a knock on the door the next day, and it was Bolton Wanderers, who were then like a Man United of today, banging on his door and said, "We'd like to sign you to play football for us." And my father's reply was, no, I'm going to stay in the Navy and get my pension. I'm not sure you'd see Wayne Rooney saying, "I'll stay in the Navy and get my pension." So that's how much it's changed. But
what an extraordinary story.
Yeah, but then my father was very, very talented sportsman, cricket, etc. Probably cricket was his weak link. In fact, when I turned at 15, because you could do it in those days, when I was turning pro, and I said to my father, I had Crystal Palace, who were then under Bert Head, and they were a very, very good, as it was in those days, Division 1. It would be Premiership now, but they were a very good team, and they offered me terms, and I said to my dad, "What do you reckon?" And my father, Les, looked at me and he said, "You're a better cricketer than you are footballer." And I listened to him, and I went and signed with Somerset and went on the Lord's ground staff a few weeks later.
Would you like to have made it as a footballer?
I did. I played for Scunthorpe.
Well, I know you did. I know.
Footballing world.
Yeah.
For myself, the three captains of England.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. I forgot about the Scunthorpe days. That is just about the pinnacle, isn't it? Really.
Oh yeah, I'm president now. I'm president of the club. I still go when we can.
Yeah.
I go a lot, and Peter Swan and his wife, Karen. It's just a fantastic club. I played there all my life as a pro. I played a bit for Yeovil, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
But if I said to you, play for Manchester United and win the title, or do what you did for England, where would you be on that?
I'm very happy where I was. Very happy. The grass is always greener on the other side. But for me, what I enjoyed, I think the thing I enjoyed most about cricket at the highest level was the fact that you had a chance to excel as an individual, but at the end of the day, you were a member of a team of 11.
Yeah.
Field.
Yeah,
And
so it's a team game, an individual sport within a team game.
Which
I'm just following up on that quickly. Johnny Bairstow I chatted to the other day, and he was talking about when he was 15, he was on the books of Leeds United, and then they rejected him because they didn't think he was good enough. And he thinks that was one defining moment in his career that made him much stronger and able to deal with disappointment, rejection, etc. And that's really kind of fueled his ability to come back and prove himself every time. Did you have anything like that? Was there a moment? I mean, I know you were hit in the face by Andy Roberts when you were young and all that, but I mean, was there a moment when there's something happened to you and you thought, right, I'm going to show them?
Oh, about once every fortnight, there'd be something that would crop up. To be honest with you, it's very hard to sort of define one particular instant. It's more an ongoing effect. Very hard to explain, but no, the defining point, I think if I was going to say there was one defining point in my entire school career, is when the headmaster at Bucklesmead Secondary Modern called me in and said I was a waster and I'd make nothing of my life. That was probably the inspirational moment of my life.
And have you ever seen him since?
Oh yeah.
Has he relented?
Wow. I think humble pie was around, quite big slices. But look, I went and saw the kids, and I addressed the kids and told them explained to them that playing professional sport, if you've got a talent, don't waste it because it's a lot better than working. And I used to go there, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed going back to in those days, the school was still the same size as when I was there. 300, 400 kids. Now I think, I don't know, I dread to think what it is. It's probably 3,000. But we had a great time, and it was great, and I enjoyed taking that back to the school. Now, look, I've been around too long. I'm not going to worry about what a headmaster said X number of years ago. He invited me back, and I went, and I was pleased to do it.
Great effort. Right, let's take questions. Simon, now Norts, you're in the hot seat here. So we've got Udesh, isn't it? First, Pushkar. Sorry, you're as you on your WhatsApp, aren't you? But it's Pushkar actually, in fact, and he's in Bangalore, aren't you? So good to have you on, and thank you very much for staying up so late. What's your question?
Yeah, so first of all, it was great listening to Botham, sir. So my question is basically, during in your area from India, we had Kapil Dev, then from your Botham, then from our neighbors, we have Imran Khan, then from New Zealand, we have Richard Hadley. So it was mostly the seam all-rounders. But if you see presently, we have like mostly the spin or slow arm bowlers all-rounders, like Shakib from Bangladesh, or Jadeja from India, or Ashwin. Barring Stokes and Holder, mostly it's spin all-rounders. So why the sudden change?
It's a good, very good question. The simple answer is that I think that it goes in cycles. And at the moment, Ben Stokes is box office, fantastic to watch. But you go back, Keps, as I've always called him, Keppel Dev, was and is a very good friend. And we worked together for the Laureate Sports for Good Foundation. We founder members of that. And I'm really pleased to hear that he's recovering from his heart attack. that he had. I rang him, texted him just after that, and he just came back. He said, "Hey, big man, I'm back, and we'll be ready for a glass of wine." Because when he played, you know, he was so dedicated that a drink never even came into his mind. He said to me, I remember saying to me at the end of one test, he said, no, Beefy, he said, we'll have a drink when I'm finished playing cricket. I've got plenty of time to catch up. And I'll always remember that. And you know, I think what he did for Indian cricket was remarkable. He bowled on those wickets, which in those days, you know, you were lucky if you got it above the knee roll. They were so slow and so flat. But he was a workhorse, and to get the wickets he did and perform as he did, he's remarkable. And I'm very lucky to share a great friendship with him.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Pushkar, for the question. And you can go to bed now and get up and watch the Test match tomorrow morning.
Now,
right.
I will say, Naughty, voice of God, I'm following your instructions. I'm putting more people. We're doing something
brilliant.
different
Okay.
tonight. I'm just
Great.
advising.
Okay. Lovely. So, Jacob, you're on screen now. Hi there. Nice to see you as well.
Nice to see you too.
What's your question?
It's been a privilege to listen to you, Beefy. So my question is not too dissimilar to what Pushkar just asked, but obviously you had the great all-rounders in the 80s. You had Richard Hadley, obviously Imran Khan, the great Kapil Dev, and yourself. So, you know, the question is, was there any kind of incentive or that drive? It's obviously a team game, cricket, but you know, to get one over one of the other all-rounders, you know, a sort
of rivalry, I suppose you mean, really, don't you? Was there a rivalry between those all-rounders?
And also the second part of the question is, you know, who did you admire the most in that you know, unbelievable quartet?
Well, of course there was rivalry. I would get up. If I was in Australia and India were playing in Pakistan or wherever, the first thing I'd do is look and see how Imran went, how Keppel went, and I'd be looking to see, and that's how competitive it was. And that was between the four of us. But it doesn't happen very often. It was a unique period where you had four all-rounders of that quality playing. And it was, and of course we looked over our shoulder and we wanted to see what was going on next door. You know, who was, how many runs, how many wickets, etc., etc. But I'll be honest with you, I think we all had our moments. And I think it was a privilege to play against those guys in those days. It was great fun. You know, people like Mike Proctor and Clive Rice, who didn't get a chance because of the apartheid regime, etc. Was sad because they'd have been up there as well. But no, it was great. It was great being part of the competition, if you like. And we all get on well, contrary to what people try and mislead you in the media. And I think, I'll tell you something, what Imran's doing now, I'll tell you what, that takes some guts. And I think I wish him all the very best, because he was always the one thing with Imran, he was very, very much wanted to do the best for Pakistan. And I think he's now in a position where he can do that. And he's a remarkable guy, and he's a very brave guy.
Yeah. What's the best and worst thing about being a fast bowling all-rounder?
Slow, dead wickets and a soft ball.
But at least you can make runs on it.
Yeah, but even so, with a soft ball and a slow wicket, it's very hard. The ball doesn't come on.
So you want, whether you're a batsman or bowler all-rounder, you want a fast, bouncy pitch?
I think every cricketer wants, every good cricketer wants.
So where would that be? Brisbane? What's your best pitch in the world?
Perth in the old days. You know, I can remember Perth wickets with pace and bounce, lots of. Brisbane, yeah. I played in Karachi on a quick wicket.
Taunton?
They could do it when they wanted to, but you know, so I'm trying to think of Caribbean. Well, actually, the Caribbean's a little
Taunton? I mean, Taunton had pace at times.
It did in the early days.
Not so much now, yeah.
Joel and myself.
It's now known as Hyderabad, isn't it? Right. Anyway, Jacob, brilliant question. Thank you very much for coming. Scott Moody. Now, Scott Moody, Beefy, is a contemporary of Shane Warne, was in the Australian Academy at the same time, and is also a leg spinner. So he's dangerous.
Good day, Scott.
Good day, Scott.
Hi, Beefy. Real
Good,
pleasure
mate.
to talk to you. Growing up in Australia, I often heard the Aussies say that they wished you were Australian, so that's a real compliment coming from them.
It's the biggest compliment you can get, mate.
Exactly. My question, if Joe Root rang you up and said, Beefy, can you give me some advice on how we can beat India in India? What would you say to him?
I said, mate, have you run out of options? Are you that desperate? No, I'm there if people want to talk to me. And there's guys that I talk to, and there's guys that I don't have to talk to. You know, Ben Stokes is a great example. If Ben came to me, I'd be happy to help. But from what I'm seeing and what he's doing, I don't think there's much I need to help him with. So, mate, you know, if they come along and they bang on the door, of course you'd help.
And what would you say at the moment, looking at this England side and knowing the Indian side as you do, obviously from watching the recent tests, what's the, you know, what should England do actually? What should be their approach, do you think?
Do you know, there's one important approach, and that is, I think, in all sport, is don't be putting out the fire, be creating the fire. So get out there on the front foot and you go for it. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you've got to take it to the opposition. If you sit back, there's not very often that you win. You might win once in a while by sitting back. Most of the time in sports, where Test cricket's a 5-day event, it's called Test cricket because it tests every part of the game. Concentration, batting, bowling, fielding, you know, all these things come into a test match. Durability, stamina, and that's the ultimate test. And that's why it's called Test cricket. And that's, to me, if we ever lose Test cricket, cricket as we know it is finished.
Scott, ask your follow-up question.
Follow-up question was, which current player most reminds you of yourself, basically, as a cricketer and character?
Struth, probably Ben.
Yeah. What about Warney going back? Would Warney
No, Warney and I are great mates, but you know, he was a step and fetch it. And you know, when he got close to 100, he got twitchy and hit it up in the air.
Yeah.
No, Warney and I played a lot of golf together. You know, I got a lot of time for Warney. I think what Warney's done for cricket is remarkable. There should be 2 statues outside every cricket ground in Australia. One's Alan Border and the other one's Shane Warne.
And we should have one of you, actually, because I mean, you reinvented cricket in the 80s. You know, you made it something that people were interested in again. And I know what you mean. Warne in the 90s and certainly, you know, early 2000s. Ben maybe is the next one.
Well, first and foremost, it's very emotional what you just said, Yossa, so thank you for that. I'm just going to mop the tears away.
The wine's going to your head.
No, believe me, not yet. But no, I think that when you think back to AB, for instance, in answer to your question, Scott, Australia went through its worst period of time leading up to AB as captain. And he transformed the whole thing round. And then the captains that came afterwards really had an easy job because he'd set it all in the foundations were there. He'd set it in concrete. He toughened them up. He made them want to play. The green baggy cap. And Border was remarkable. I've got nothing but praise for that guy. He's gutsy. He did everything that, and a bit more.
Yeah.
Shane Warne is box office. He's Mr. Cricket. And I absolutely love being around him. His enthusiasm, whether it's for cricket or a game of poker or a game of golf, it's just the same.
Yeah. Great, Scott. Thanks a lot, and good luck with your game. He's created a game called Flick It Cricket, which is really good actually. So everybody, look at that. Right, Richard Shelley's next. Richard, are you there? Hi, Richard.
Hi, evening everyone.
Good to see you.
And you, Simon. You talked Ian earlier on about your performances in the 81 Ashes, those 3 tests, and the performance in India. My question was, with the Indian series starting tomorrow, do you actually think that was your best all-round performance for England, considering the conditions and the wickets you took?
I think there's milestones throughout your career, and they all mean something different to you as a person. Your first game for Somerset, your first game for England, your first 100, your first 5-wicket haul. There's milestones all the way through, so very hard to pick defining moments. I would think probably, look, I enjoy playing against Australia more than anybody else, simply because, as I said earlier in the programme, the respect I have for them as a nation. And, they just don't go away. They're annoying. they just don't let go. And, I would say beating the Australians in England was great. To beat them in their own backyard is fantastic. And any England player that's done that will tell you the same. Because when you arrive in Australia, you come through the customs. G'day, Botham. We'll just check your bags, mate. And they keep you there. And then you get in the taxi. Oh, what are you guys doing here? You won't be here for long. The game's only going to last 3 days up here. And then you go, and it just continues. You get the hotel. Oh, mate, you won't be here for 5 nights. You'll only be here for 3. But when you've beaten them by the Christmas test, it's fantastic. But the only difference is everything on the radio and the taxi drivers all talk about the rugby league in 3 months' time. Cricket's gone. And that's the biggest satisfaction you never have in your life, is shutting up the Aussies.
Great question. Thanks, Richard. That's brilliant and a nice answer. And I suppose you're helping the Australian economy with your wine.
Very much so. And I wish I was down there now, because I've just missed playing in the Victorian PGA. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It'll come back around.
Yeah, next year. Here's Annie Chave. Hi, Annie, who is, by the way, Mrs. Somerset.
I am a huge fan of Somerset, and even when you were there, Beefy.
You don't look old enough to remember me, Annie.
Oh, thanks.
That's the only reason she comes on, actually, is to get a compliment each week. Anyway, go on.
You and Viv. I've got a question from one of your fellow commentators. I asked him for a question for you, and he said, but I've also got a follow-up one after.
Okay.
So he said, is it true that when you were captain of Somerset, did you toss up on the balcony, bat first, and then go and sleep with a pork pie?
Yeah.
So, why?
Because it was a tactical move. I needed some sleep because I hadn't been to sleep that night. And B, I needed a pork pie with some mustard because I was hungry. And I used to have a bath as well, go in the hot bath and soak. And I used to fall asleep in the bath. So if we won the toss, we batted.
Okay, my follow-up question is, it's one that I've talked to a few cricketers about, and I strongly believe it. Do you think that nowadays there's less characters in cricket because of strict guidelines and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for it, to be honest with you, Annie. I don't think it's just the intrusion, mobile phones. We all have mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Mobile phones, click, click, with a photograph. You can be doing something quite innocent, and suddenly you're on social media. Very difficult, I think, but players nowadays are much more educated in that situation and how to avoid it. Yeah. But you know what? I wouldn't change for anything. The time I played and the people I played with was magnificent. And it wasn't just about a game of cricket and going back to the hotel and playing on their SP5 or whatever they're called, those things. To me, it was about, if you embrace the country you go to, or the county you went to. Don't think it's a young kid from Somerset at the age of, what would I been when I first started touring, 17, 18 with the team. I'm going to places I've never even seen, going to big cricket grounds and what have you. So, everything's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
And you don't play bridge like you used to in the changing rooms? And
no, I didn't play bridge. I wasn't.
I gathered that.
Rich, you've got to be joking now. I was miles away from
It was
Rich.
more poker, wasn't it?
It was poker or brag. Yeah.
Okay.
Rainy days were dangerous and could be expensive.
I'm sure.
Simon's not Siv. Voice got Simon uses discipline. I think he's drunk too much and fallen off his chair.
Okay,
You're now
right, yeah.
running the show.
Right, I'm now running the show. Yours has disappeared temporarily. Let's get a question. Let's get a question.
That's not a problem.
No, okay, fair enough. Let's get a question from Ian. Ian Wigston.
Hi, Ian.
One for you.
Beefy, hi. Great to have you with us. I'm 168 days older than you. Does your ennoblement in any way compensate for your being dropped, allegedly, for being too old from the Sky team?
Where on earth did you get that from?
What, the fact that I'm 168 days older?
No, I was dropped. No, I didn't drop. I resigned.
Okay.
No, I walked away. I'll tell you for why. First and foremost, the wine industry was where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And more importantly, I was a commentator for 23 years, I think it was. But you have a shelf life. And the younger guys coming through with different ideas, the way the game's played, it was just time to move on. I didn't have a problem with it. In fact, I informed my boss in May that I didn't want a contract next year. And I did that summer against the Australians, and I retired. And it was the happiest day. I enjoyed the best of Sky. Sky, when I joined it, was all about bringing the game into the front room. And I think we achieved that to a degree, and making it accessible to everybody and trying to enlighten them about what goes on. And I enjoyed all that. And now I think it's time for the youngsters to get stuck in, and I wish them all very well. I had a great time. 23 years is a long time in any job. And I had something I wanted to do, and that's my wines. And you couldn't do both because I have to travel around the world. I have to go, it's really tough. I have to go to Australia and New Zealand and Argentina. It's a bugbear, but that's where I am now, and that's where I wanted to be. I think Bob Willis, myself, Paul Allett, David Lloyd to a degree. I think we were there at the right time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Wouldn't change it for anything, but everyone has a shelf life. It was time to move on.
Yeah.
So contrary to whatever NASA's told you or whoever, no, I didn't. I wasn't too old. Far from it. In fact, if you look at it, David Lloyd's older than all of us by about 15 years. So it had nothing to do with age. Right. It was just time to move on for me.
And thank you for a great evening, including this.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you so much. I had a massive problem. I had a massive technical problem there. Everything just blew up. So apologies, but you kept it going manfully, as your surname proves. We should just, before we go to the quiz, you want to just do the Cab Sab, don't you? Quickly.
Well, it now, thanks. Yeah.
You're doing it now. Well, tell us a bit about that. I want to just try it quickly.
Well, look, Cabernet Sauvignon for me is it's the king of reds. It's the most wonderful grape. It can be used in many ways and blended in many ways, or drank as we're doing it here as a 100% Cabernet. Fantastic wine. Comes from Coonawarra, which is not quite as hot and as intense as Barossa, but you do need heat for Cabernet as well. So that's why Australians make their Shiraz and Barossa in their Cabernet and Coonawarra, and it is stunning. I love it.
So this is your favourite, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I like Pinot Noir out of New Zealand, but that's another story. Another one you didn't tell your viewers about, but we can do that another day. I'll tell you what we should do. We should, as you've forgotten the Pinot Noirs and the whites and the rosés.
We haven't got all night, have we?
No, but what I'm saying is, why don't we do another one?
Oh, I'd love it. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And we'll recap the 86-7 Ashes. Yeah, brilliant. Great idea. I mean, I really like this. And Cab Sav is your sort of default, I guess, is it really?
I wouldn't call it a default. I would call it a positive.
I do remember one time when we were in a hotel in, I think, somewhere like Leicester, and you were in that state where you couldn't go out because you just got bombarded with people asking you questions and taking pictures and stuff. This is before the days of, smartphones and stuff. And you got me to get you a takeaway. And we came back and I went to bed at sort of 2 a.m. and you rang me at 3 and said, I've still got this bottle of red we need to finish, And I don't know if it was a Cabernet Sauvignon, but it probably was. Yeah. Amazing. Anyway, we should just have Will. We haven't had Will on yet, have we? Will, given that he's bought the picture, should have.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Oh, right, he's been outbidded, has he?
Well, I think he has. There. You've got in early, Simon, with that.
Yeah.
Well, annoyingly, Simon.
You've been outbid.
I'm going to stop bidding now, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you've done a brilliant job. Thank you very much.
House of Hot Yoga, 535 at the moment.
House of Hot Yoga.
Yeah, as outbid Will by 5. Will went 530. House of Hot Yoga. I don't know who House of Hot Yoga is. We know who Will is, obviously. So if House of Hot Yoga reneges, then Will, it's yours for 530. But we'll see on that one. Anyway,
he's got to do the personalised signature there, Beefy, to House of Hot Yoga. I bet you've never signed that on a picture before.
I think I'd probably take my time.
No. Anyway, Will, go ahead with your question, and then we'll get to the quiz, and then we can let Beefy go.
First of all, can I just welcome another one who I've invited, Simon Goodman, who is actually here tonight as my +1. So I thought I'd just mention him.
Excellent.
Before I'd get that. Great evening, Beefy. Love the wine as well. Cheers.
Good man.
My question to you, I've got 2 actually. My first one is, it is about the. If you could pick one thing about what is the single biggest difference, the difference between international cricket now to where it is batting in the 80s, and also as well, how are you feeling? I know it's kind of been touched on tonight with the 81 Ashes, but how are you feeling walking out to bat, knowing that we were so far behind in the game and you had to kind of put on a swashbuckling 100?
Well, let's put that in perspective, right? Yeah, there's many a time I walked out, we were in deep trouble, and I've cleaned that up because of ladies. But you go out there, and it's the intent. It doesn't always work. But I was a great believer in the best form of defence is attack. Because if you think about it, if they've got you 4 or 5 wickets down for nothing, you're going to have 4 slips, a gully, short leg slip. Then there's a lot of space around, and that's occasionally you'd nick it and get out, but sometimes it would all come together. So I think the answer to the second part of that question is quite often it's best to attack rather than sit. Sorry, what was the first part of the question again?
What's the difference between? Yeah, sorry. Go on. You ask, Will.
If you could pick one thing, what is the single biggest difference between international cricket today compared to how it was batting in the 80s?
Well, we used to travel at the back of the plane in the 80s. Bob Willis used to have to be carried off and crunched into. He was like putting a concertina back together. So Bobby didn't enjoy that very much. And also, if we want the wives out, we had to pay for our own wives to come out. Nowadays, the wives get looked after and the players travel business class at least. So I would say from a much travelled person, that's the biggest difference for me. The game of cricket has not changed and it won't change. It never will change. And what changes they have are probably for the better. DRS, this review system might have probably had another 200 wickets. So I'd have been quite happy with that. Shane Warne reckons he'd have had another 1,000 wickets.
Did you think your 383 was going to be beaten by an England player?
Oh yeah. Not initially, but then when you see the amount of Test cricket the guys started playing and travelling around the world, if you look at the average year of Test cricket we had as opposed to what they do now, it was always going to get broken. But it's nice to have been. And you just got to, I was the first to congratulate Jimmy when he went past it, and he richly deserves it. He's fantastic, and he hasn't finished yet, so who knows where he's going to end up.
But we have to say before we go to the quiz quickly, we have to say you took the 383 wickets, but you also scored 14 Test hundreds.
Yeah,
which I think is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, I don't think Jimmy will do that. I'm
No,
not sure about
I think
that
you're right.
either, but there you go.
Amazing. Right, listen, quiz time. Simon, let's go to the quiz. So
Yeah.
the quiz, it will only take a short time, provided you don't waste too long working out the answers. The quiz is, how well do you know yourself? And we've had lots of competitors on this. We've had Joe Root, we've had Cook, Wood, Brody. Andrew Strauss is the leader in the clubhouse at the moment in 2021. It's 10 questions.
Oh, God.
We'll try and give you some help if you're struggling, but they're quite simple, most of them. We start with a bit of music. So I hope you're in the zone. If you get the right answer, you get a... He's got it! And if you get a wrong answer, it's... Okay.
Great. What's the
We've got
question?
9 to beat, I'm afraid, from Strauss, but some other lower scores. So
Cool,
don't let that put you off. Simon, do you want to start?
Yeah. The lowest score is 4, Alistair Cook.
Yeah.
There's a shot.
And the only answers he could get was about questions about sheep.
Right. Right. Here's question number 1 then. Who caught you out? Who took the catch when you were dismissed on your first class debut in 1974? I can
Give him a clue.
I can give you a
Was
bit
that
of help with.
Was it against Lancashire?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can give you a bit of help with this. I'm allowed to give you a bit of help because the question does outline that I can give you help. He's become very familiar to you as a working colleague.
Yeah, David Lloyd.
He's got it! Correct. 1 out of 1.
I did well remember Lancashire.
Yeah. Taunton, Lancashire, 1974. Question 2. How many games did you play for Somerset before taking your first class wicket? Was it 2 games, 4 games, or 6 games before you took your first class wicket for Somerset?
Pure guess. I have no idea. 4.
He's got it! Correct. 2 out of 2.
2 out of 2.
4 games you took to take your first class wicket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember who your first class wicket was?
No, I haven't got a clue.
Actually, I can't remember either. Anyway, move on.
Question number 3. This should be a fairly straightforward one. You were in the team when Somerset won their first ever trophy. Who did you beat to win it? 1979 at Lord's.
Northants?
He's got it! 3 out of 3. Flying.
Northants by 45 runs.
Question 4. How many appearances have you made in the Football League? I'll give you sort of within 2.
11.
My God, you got it absolutely spot on. 4 out of 4. Bloody hell.
More.
Should have played more. Well, you were playing cricket, kind of. Come on. Right. Simon?
I was confident you're going to get that one because you were playing for the mighty Scunthorpe and you're bound to remember every time you turned out for them.
And they can't have wanted him any more than 11.
Right, here's number 5 then. How many times did you score a century and take a fifer in the same test?
Oh. Do I get any clues? Yeah.
No. Because it's a world record.
Oh, shit. Half a dozen.
Do we give him that?
Well, it's very close.
We'll give you that. It's actually 5. And it's by comfortably better than anyone else. I think the next is 3. Sobers, Callis and someone else did it 3 times. But you've scored a century and taken 5 wickets in innings in a test match 5 times. That's amazing. Right. Well, you got 5 out of 5. You're storming away here. We're going to have to start making this a bit harder. Okay, question 6. Who was your 333rd?
383rd.
Sorry. Who was your 383rd and last test victim? And we can give you a clue if you can't remember.
Give me a clue.
Okay, was it Ramiz Raja, Blair Hartland, John Wright, or Amir Sahel?
I think it was Pakistan.
Okay.
Actually, I'm hopeless at this stuff.
You were question of sport captain. What are you talking about?
I won once in 8 years.
Why didn't you get sacked then?
I'm going to go with Amir Sahel.
Your first wrong answer. It was
Ramiz Raj.
Blair Hartland.
Oh, God, I didn't remember that.
I've never heard of him, actually.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so that's 5 out of 6. You're doing well. Question 7, Simon?
Yeah, Blair Hartland was top of the order for New Zealand, and that was in a Wellington Test match in February 1992. You played 2 more Test matches after that game, but didn't take a wicket. So it was a sort of trick question, really, because you did play against Ramiz Raja and Amir Sahel in your last 2 Test matches, but you didn't take a wicket. Question number 7, then. Against which team did you score your last Test half century? There's something very significant about it, though. There's something extremely significant about this innings.
Are we talking first class or international?
Test. There's something notable about this innings.
Your last Test half century. It was out of character, let's say.
I blocked the hell out of it for a day against Pakistan.
Correct.
He's got it!
Yeah, it was the famous 51 not out of 209 balls in 4 hours and 12 minutes in your Jeffrey Boycott impersonation.
The most boring 4 hours of my entire cricketing career.
I had to watch that. I was having to watch that as well. I was commentating with Colin Milburn on that Test.
Jack got 100 the other end.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right. 1987. Okay. Question 8. Now I'm going to substitute a question here because we've got a boring question, which was name one of 2 batsmen who you dismissed most in your Test career. Who's that?
Alan Border.
Any idea? Alan Border. Yeah, right. You knew that. So my question is, question 8 is what? Where's the buzzer? No. All right. I'll give you a kind of all right. But I'm not going to count that question. The question is, what most irritates you? Sorry. Start again. What most irritates Kath about your general behaviour around the house?
Untidiness.
He's got it!
You've got it. Very good. Yeah. She says you're getting better at loading the dishwasher, though.
Only when my youngest grandson's around. He's 2 in April, but yeah, he and I do a great job. He leads.
Bloody hell, he's got 7 out of 8 here, Simon.
Yeah, well, two to go. Okay, this is question number 9. I think this is one of yours. In which country did you average 61 with the bat and 25 with the ball?
In Test cricket, that is, obviously.
India.
He's got it!
Bloody hell. You got it. That's the 9. That's 8 out of 9. Yeah, amazing record in India. Right, last question then. To draw level with Andrew Strauss, what was the most unusual thing about your final 10 overs on the field in first-class cricket?
That would have something to do with my zip.
No, not a bit more general.
Are you talking about Durham? Last game?
Mm-hmm. What was unusual about the last few overs that you spent on the field in that game?
What was unusual? I might have had regular drinks brought out. No, I said I might. I have no idea. What was the most unusual thing?
I've got to hurry you here.
Concerning myself?
Yeah, something that you were doing.
Oh, I don't know, probably impersonated everybody or did some, I don't know, I have no idea.
No, you've got it wrong. No. You kept wicket.
Well, last That's debatable because I'm not sure I did.
You did. You kept Wicket. I remember it. I was there. You kept
Yeah.
Wicket with no pads for the last few overs.
Well, Fothergill was useless, so I had to take over.
Bothers, I hope you're still there. Come back on him. Come back. Right. Well, so I'm afraid, I mean, you've done incredibly well there. 8 out of 10. Brilliant. You fell down on your memories of your last game, but I remember it.
Hang on. Do you think there's a surprise in that?
Well, it's the most recent.
No,
you know.
But after all those years, do you think there was a lot of things going on in that game, as I recall?
There were, and it was a great day. In fact, I was in the dressing room with the Australians during that match when you were bowling, because I was off the field for some time, and they were compelled. Whenever you came on to bowl, they were like, "What's he tried now? You know, what's he bowling? What's he bowling? He's going to get another one of us out." They were just in awe, actually. So it was a fascinating thing to see the Australians still in awe of you in 1993, 12 years after 1981.
Can I tell you the thing that was probably one of the biggest moments when you realise you've probably done okay? Merv Hughes went to the in the dressing rooms and found a book of A4, and he hand wrote, because I just announced my retirement from the game, and he hand wrote 4 pages on an A4, handwritten as a tribute to myself from an Aussie. And I never told anyone. That went into, that's one of the few things I've kept.
Wow.
And Merv Hughes went off and wrote it. And that's the man that everybody in England hated. And yet I thought he was one of the greatest competitors I ever played against. So there you go. And
where is it now then? Is it framed somewhere or something? Or
No, I don't. It'd be in a cupboard at the back there somewhere.
Right.
I'm not into all that stuff. But
what did he say?
Actually, very complimentary. He actually went into a brochure. They did a testimonial brochure, not testimonial, my retirement brochure, and it was in there. So it can be found, yours. But,
Love the story.
Merv came off the field.
Merv.
He came off the field and he wrote that. He went in the dressing room and wrote it, hand wrote it, 4 pages of A4. And I thought, well, from an Aussie, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
Fantastic. Okay, well, listen, that's it. You've given us more than enough time. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that it's overrun. We had a few technical issues, but that happens these days. Beefy, it's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much for your contribution, your wine, which we've all enjoyed. So obviously bothamwines.com is where you can get more. I'm going to wallow in it over the weekend. Prediction on India, England?
Okay, there's a couple of things I want to say, if I may. England will beat India, I think, because I think Joe Root is one of the better players in the subcontinent around, as he's just proved in Sri Lanka. And I think the England players, Ben Stokes back, I think there'll be enough there to beat India. More importantly, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight. Thank you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed sharing the wines with you, although somewhat minuscule to what we actually produce. But what I'd like to do is, and I was quite genuine when I said that earlier, you haven't done the rosés or the sparkling rosé, the still rosé and the whites. And we've also got something coming out quite special very shortly. So I've enjoyed this evening, and I'd be very happy if it helps, which I think is a great cause. I'd happily come back.
Great. Fantastic. That's good to know.
Absolutely fantastic. And the bidding's going up and up as well, by the way. Will Gould's up to 585 now. So he's leading in the bid for the...
I hope they're not doing it pound by pound now.
No, they're doing a bit better than that now. They're going up by £5 or £4 or whatever. Anyway, we're up 585 for that picture of Beefy at Headingley in the dressing room with the pads on, just looking like that. Is that right? Looking like that?
Yeah. Yeah, a bit cooler than you though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Obviously, just scored 100 and however many, 49.
Hey, can I just step in a second? Voice of
Yes.
Somebody very clever in the chat room said, if the bidding's so competitive, if Ian was to sign the second one, you could sell 2.
Bloody hell! I haven't got a second one. Well, actually, I have. In fact, I've got another one, which is you taking that wicket in at Edgbaston. At some point I'll bring that up for you to sign as well. I'm not sure when, but I'll work it out.
Send your daughter, as you did.
Get my daughter to come up again, but I mean she's stuck in bloody Durham now till March, so I'll try and work it out. I'll work something out anyway. Yeah, great.
Well, she could be stuck in London.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Beefy, you have to go because you've got to go and load the dishwasher now. Okay. So thank you very much and really appreciate it. Everyone else, stay on the line if you want to chat on. But Beefy, you're free to go. Great.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Thanks very much indeed. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Cheers, Beefy.
Cheers all.
Love you, mate.
Cheers, Beefy. Thank you.
Pleasure all.
Cheers. Bye, Beefy.
Bye.